Have you ever thought about what lies hidden in the darkest corners of the internet? Beyond the reach of Google's search algorithms, past the endless stream of social media posts, exists a realm shrouded in secrecy and uncertainty. This is the world of the Silk Road, a clandestine online marketplace that thrived in the shadows of the dark web. The Silk Road was not your typical e-commerce site. There were no user reviews, no recommended products, and certainly no one-click purchases. Its existence was known to only a select few, and its users were as elusive as ghosts. It was a place where anonymity was paramount, and the currency of choice was not dollars or euros, but Bitcoin and untraceable cryptocurrency. The Silk Road was a global bazaar for the illicit. It traded in everything from narcotics to stolen credit card information, from counterfeit currencies to unregistered weapons. It was a one-stop shop for all things illegal, a marketplace that thrived on the promise of complete anonymity and untraceable transactions. But the Silk Road was more than just a market. It was an enigma, a mystery wrapped in the cloaks of the deep web. Its operations were shrouded in secrecy, its existence only whispered in the dark corners of the internet. The people who ran it, the people who used it, remained faceless, their identities hidden behind layers of encryption and pseudonyms. The Silk Road was a paradox. It was a beacon of freedom, a testament to the unregulated power of the internet, yet it was also a den of iniquity, a place where the lawless thrived and the innocent were exploited. It was a world where the boundaries of morality were blurred, where right and wrong were as elusive as the identities of its users. In this virtual Wild West, the Silk Road was the epitome of the internet's dark side. It was a place where the rules of the real world didn't apply, where the only law was the law of supply and demand. It was a place that existed in the shadows, unseen, unregulated, uncontrolled. A virtual Wild West, the Silk Road was the epitome of the internet's dark side. In the shadows of the web, a new marketplace thrived unregulated and unnoticed by the world above. The Silk Road, named after the ancient trade route, was no ordinary marketplace. It was a digital bazaar, a hidden corner of the internet where one could buy or sell anything. And when we say anything, we mean anything. From illicit drugs to exotic animals, counterfeit money to stolen identities, the Silk Road had it all. The platform's growth was nothing short of meteoric. It all began in 2010, a brainchild of a young libertarian who went by the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts. The Silk Road was his vision of a truly free market, a place where supply and demand dictated the rules, not governments or corporations. And the fuel that powered this clandestine economy? Bitcoin. The digital currency was the lifeblood of the Silk Road. It facilitated anonymous transactions, making it a perfect fit for a platform that thrived on discretion. The Silk Road and Bitcoin were a match made in the shadows. Together, they formed a symbiotic relationship that propelled both of them into the spotlight. However, this rapid growth didn't go unnoticed. As the Silk Road flourished, it began to attract the attention of law enforcement agencies worldwide. They watched with increasing concern as the Silk Road transformed into a hub for illegal activities. The more they understood about the Silk Road, the more they realized the gravity of the situation. It wasn't just a black market. It was a breeding ground for all sorts of nefarious deeds. But the Silk Road was more than just a marketplace. It was a symbol, a testament to the boundless possibilities of the dark web. It was a beacon for those who believed in absolute freedom, regardless of the consequences. As the Silk Road grew, so did the determination of those sworn to bring it down. The stage was set for an epic confrontation. The digital underbelly of the web was about to witness a clash of ideologies that would forever change its landscape. In the high-stakes game of cat and mouse, the authorities launched an unprecedented cyber manhunt. As the Silk Road grew in notoriety, so did the urgency to unmask the puppeteer behind the curtain. However, the quest was far from simple. The Silk Road was a labyrinth, shrouded in layers of anonymity provided by the Tor network and Bitcoin transactions. This was a new frontier for law enforcement, a digital Wild West, where the traditional rules didn't apply. The challenges were multifold. Firstly, the Silk Road operated on the dark web, an encrypted network invisible to standard search engines. This was a realm where users could hide their identities and locations, making it a haven for those seeking to operate outside the law. Secondly, transactions on the Silk Road were conducted in Bitcoin, a form of digital currency that allowed users to make purchases without leaving a traceable financial footprint. These factors combined to create a seemingly impenetrable fortress of secrecy. But the authorities were not deterred. They adapted, evolved, and started mastering the language of this new landscape. They developed innovative tracking techniques using digital breadcrumbs left by transactions and conversations on the Silk Road. Law enforcement agencies worldwide pooled their resources and expertise, forming a global alliance in their pursuit of justice. They started to trace the invisible threads that connected the users of the Silk Road. They followed the flow of bitcoins, analyzed patterns, and used advanced data analysis tools to map out connections. They delved into the forums, picking apart conversations, looking for clues, any slip-ups that might reveal the identity of the puppet master. And slowly but surely, they started to make progress. They began to peel back the layers to see through the smoke and mirrors. They started to understand the intricate workings of this dark web marketplace. They were learning to navigate through the labyrinth. The net was closing in, but the mastermind behind the Silk Road remained elusive. Little did they know the most shocking revelations were still to come, as they delved deeper into the shadowy world of the Silk Road. The hunter became the hunted, as the walls began to close in on the Silk Road. In the final stages of the investigation, the authorities zeroed in on a figure of intrigue, Ross Ulbricht. A brilliant mind with a dark ambition, Ulbricht was allegedly the architect of the Silk Road, a marketplace that had thrived in the shadows, undeterred by the law. The pursuit was relentless. Federal agents armed with the power of technology and an unwavering resolve were closing in. Their net tightened around Ulbricht, a digital phantom who had eluded them for so long. The chase reached its climax in a San Francisco library, where Ross Ulbricht was arrested in October of 2013. The news of his arrest sent shockwaves through the underbelly of the internet. The Silk Road, the untouchable fortress of the dark web, had been breached. Its mastermind, the once elusive Dread Pirate Roberts, was now in handcuffs, his empire crumbling around him. The impact of Ulbricht's arrest was monumental. The Silk Road had been a beacon of hope for many in the dark web, a symbol of resistance against the perceived overreach of government. With its downfall, the dark web was thrown into disarray. Other marketplaces tried to fill the void left by the Silk Road, but none could match its reach or reputation. The arrest of Ross Ulbricht was not just a victory for law enforcement, it was a stark warning to others who dared to tread the same path. It served as a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the web, justice could find its way. The Silk Road had been a dark star, casting long shadows over the world of online commerce. Its downfall marked a turning point in the battle against cybercrime, a battle that is far from over. With one fell swoop, the notorious Silk Road had met its end. Yet the legacy it left behind continues to shape the landscape of the digital underworld. The Silk Road may have been extinguished, but its ghost still haunts the corridors of the web. The closure of the Silk Road was not the end of the story. In fact, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. The void left by this infamous marketplace quickly filled with a multitude of new platforms, each one darker and more insidious than the last. These new marketplaces, hidden deep within the nebulous realm of the dark web, continue to peddle everything from illicit drugs to stolen credit card details and even weapons. The legacy of the Silk Road is not just limited to the proliferation of these dark web bazaars. It also marked a turning point in the way law enforcement agencies around the world approach cybercrime. The pursuit and eventual shutdown of the Silk Road proved that even the most well-hidden corners of the internet are not beyond the reach of justice. But it also highlighted the immense challenges that law enforcement faces in this new digital frontier. In the wake of the Silk Road's downfall, law enforcement agencies worldwide have ramped up their efforts to combat these emerging threats. They have developed new tools and techniques to track down cybercriminals and have formed international coalitions to share intelligence and collaborate on investigations. Despite these advances, the task is monumental, akin to finding a needle in a haystack that is constantly growing and changing. The story of the Silk Road serves as a stark reminder of the dual nature of the internet. On one hand, it is a tool that has revolutionized our world, bringing people together and democratizing information like never before. But on the other hand, it has also given rise to a dark underbelly, a world that exists in the shadows, far removed from the everyday user. The Silk Road is a stark reminder of the darker side of the internet, a world that exists in the shadows beyond the reach of the everyday user.